Today, we are analyzing a script titled The Psychology of People Who Love Staying at Home, which explores the emotional and biological reasons why some individuals find genuine restoration in solitude rather than crowded social environment. Right off the bat, within the first few seconds, you can tell this material is deeply empathetic.
Oh, absolutely.
It has a highly resonant core narrative, and it effectively uses that Sarah versus Michael vignette to distinguish healthy restoration from unhealthy avoidance.
Yeah, that's a really strong baseline for the piece.
Right? So let's just dive right into the first area of opportunity to elevate this material. I want to talk about how it portrays the external world.
Okay, sure. Let's get into it.
As I understand it from the notes, the argument here is that the outside world is inherently draining. It reads almost like a movie where the outside world is this, well, slightly one-dimensional villain, you know? It's always loud, chaotic, and demanding.
Yeah, it really paints a specific picture.
So I wonder, might this framing inadvertently exclude a portion of the audience?
Broadening the portrayal of the outside world could prevent the narrative from inadvertently alienating listeners whose preference for home stems from pure contentment rather than from a need to escape exhaustion.
Right, because not everyone is just running away from something.
Exactly. The weakness here is that the current text heavily frames the outside world as an antagonist. It primarily describes it through really negative, overwhelming sensory details.
Like the part about conversations bleeding into each other?
The constant unpredictability and chaos of crowds. It creates this dichotomy that positions the desire to stay home primarily as a trauma response, or, a flight from a hostile environment.
Which completely overlooks individuals who just find joy in their own space without needing to recover from external negativity.
Precisely. It makes staying home look like an escape rather than a choice.
But let me push back on that for just a second. Doesn't the author need to draw a sharp contrast? For a lot of people, the outside world actually is genuinely exhausting.
Oh, for sure. And we don't want to invalidate that experience at all. But the suggestion here is to balance the narrative by acknowledging that the external world isn't inherently bad or universally exhausting for these individuals.
So it's more about the home simply being better?
Outside world.
Okay. I see. So what are some concrete examples of how the author could actually fix that on the page?
Well, as just one way to solve this, instead of only utilizing descriptions of the outside as draining, introduce a brief scenario where someone enjoys a pleasant day out.
Like a nice quiet dinner with a friend, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. But make the point that even after that lovely dinner, they still eagerly look forward to the profound, chosen quiet of their living room.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Alternatively, they could rephrase the cafe scene. Right now, it's very chaotic. Show that even a pleasant cafe simply doesn't offer the specific depth of comfort that a personally curated home space provides.
I love that. Building on the idea that the desire to stay home isn't just a reaction to a villainous outside world, let's shift the focus to the internal biological drivers mentioned in the text.
Yeah, the science angle is really fascinating here.
It is. The material makes a really strong case for optimal arousal theory early on, but then it seems to, trade the psychological framework for purely emotional validation.
It kind of drops the ball there, yeah.
What if we kept that scientific lens in focus longer?
Deepening the exploration of optimal arousal theory throughout the entire narrative would elevate the piece from a highly empathetic essay to a truly robust psychological breakdown.
Because right now, the weakness is that it just abandons it, right?
That is exactly the weakness. The script introduces the intriguing, scientifically grounded concept of optimal arousal theory in the beginning, but quickly abandons this framework to focus exclusively on emotional validation.
Which is a shame, because it's such a cool concept.
It really is. And by not returning to the core psychological premise, the piece leaves the promise of the title, the psychology of people who love staying at home, slightly unfulfilled.
So the suggestion would be to just bring it back up more often?
The suggestion is to thread the concept of the nervous system and arousal theory continuously through the script. Use it as an analytical anchor to explain exactly why specific behaviors occur.
Like marrying the emotional resonance with a stronger, authoritative, scientific backbone.
Precisely. You want the science to validate the emotion.
Let's get concrete again. How would the author apply this, say, when discussing the Sarah versus Michael vignette?
So when discussing that vignette, explicitly weave the science back in. Explain that Sarah's nervous system has successfully hit its optimal arousal peak and is regulating properly.
Oh, wow. So it's a biological success for her.
Yes, exactly. Whereas Michael's nervous system is trapped in a fight-or-flight anxiety loop.
Wait, really? Just from scrolling on his phone?
Yeah, because he's understimulated and dysregulated. And as another example, when discussing the childhood origins of staying home, explicitly connect gentle nurturing to a baseline regulation of the nervous system.
That makes the whole piece feel so much more substantial. And connecting the delivery of these psychological concepts naturally brings up the overall pacing of the script.
The pacing is definitely something we need to look at.
Let's look closely at how the reassurance is delivered. The script frequently pauses the psychological exploration to remind the listener that they aren't lazy or antisocial.
Yeah, it happens quite a bit.
Is there a risk that looping back to this validation repeatedly might stall the momentum of the deeper insights we just discussed?
Consolidating the recurring cycles of emotional validation will tighten the script's pacing and give the core message a significantly more powerful emotional impact.
So the weakness is that constant looping?
Exactly. The narrative continually loops back to reassure the audience with phrases like, "There's nothing wrong with you," or "You're not missing out," in several different sections.
I mean, it's very sweet, but
It is well-intentioned, yes, but this repetitive structure slows the forward momentum of the psychological exploration and dilutes the impact of the final empowering message.
so what is the suggestion here? Just cut them?
No, don't cut them completely. The suggestion is to group these validating statements into a singular climactic closing section rather than sprinkling them throughout the text.
Oh, so hold them all until the end.
Right. This allows the body of the script to maintain a tight, forward-moving focus on exploring the why and the how.
That sounds like it would hit a lot harder. Give me a concrete example of how to execute this rearrangement.
Okay, so remove the mid-script reassurances. For example, there's that validation paragraph right before the shadow side transition. Physically move those sentiments to the very end of the piece.
So you just copy and paste them down to the conclusion?
Pretty much. Combine them with the final crescendo, the part that says, "You're not antisocial, you're selective. You're not lazy, you're intentional."
That would be a huge emotional payoff.
It really ensures the listener receives one massive, uninterrupted emotional payoff, but only after fully understanding the psychology behind their behavior.
I love that. Okay, to concisely recap, the three main takeaways for the listener. Number one, nuance the portrayal of the outside world so it isn't solely an antagonist.
Yep.
Number two, thread the optimal arousal theory throughout the entire piece to maintain the psychological promise.
Right.
And number three, consolidate the validating statements into a single powerful conclusion to improve narrative pacing.
Perfect. And I just want to say, the deep level of empathy present in the original draft is truly wonderful. We warmly invite the listener to implement these structural changes and submit the revised material back to the critique for another look.
We really look forward to seeing it. Thanks for tuning in.